What's up guys, Frankenstein here from Millionaire Mindset. Barron's recently came out with an article on the 100 most sustainable companies in the United States. So I asked myself, what are the most sustainable dividend companies in the United States? Because as a dividend investor, you want to be sure that the company will not cut its dividend. If a company cut its dividend, it is a red flag. Take GE for example. They recently cut their dividend to 1 cent. That is a horrible looking chart. The worst thing that can happen to a dividend investor is a dividend cut. So what are the most sustainable dividend companies in the US and why I think they're sustainable? Before I give you the 10 names, let's take a look at how I came up with the 10 companies. The very first thing I look at for a company paying dividend is their payout ratio. Let's say the company has a net income of 1 million and it pays a dividend of 100,000 to its shareholders. So the payout ratio will be dividends paid divided by net income, or 100,000 divided by 1 million, which is equal to 0.1, which is also equal to 10%. Basically, it is the ratio of the income paid out as dividends. The lesser this number is, the more sustainable the dividend. As I've said in my other videos, I like this number to be under 75%. This number is the biggest indication on whether the dividends are sustainable or not. You can check this number on dividend.com. Remember, if the payout ratio is above 100%, that means that the company is paying shareholders more money than it is generating. That is a huge red flag and usually means that a dividend cut is coming. Here's an example from the book Get Rich with Dividends. The example is from Vulcan Materials Company. As you can see in the table, the payout ratio was going up every year, giving us warning signs. Could we have seen a dividend cut? I think we could have. And rightly so, in the third quarter of 2009, Vulcan cut its dividend in half. That is why it is very important to pay attention to the payout ratio. The second thing I look at is whether the company has an economic moat. What is a moat? This term was coined by Warren Buffett for companies that have competitive advantage over its rivals. Can a company keep raising the prices of its products and still sell them because it has that advantage over its competitors? Well, take Apple for example. As of 2019, new iPhones cost close to $1,100, yet people are still buying iPhones. Why is that? Because having a wider moat leads to pricing power and thus sustainability. On a side note, here's an ETF that only follows companies with a wide moat. Going slightly off topic here, but if you want to invest in ETFs or mutual funds, be sure to check their expense ratio. I've covered this in another video. The third thing I look at is whether the company continued to pay and increase its dividend during the last recession. Why is that? It is very important to know that the company you're heavily invested in has the ability to survive and sustain if the economy goes bad or if there's a recession. Only companies that have stable balance sheets will be able to sustain this. Let's go to Dividend.com and see how 3M did during the last recession, which was in 2008 by the way. As you can see, they not only paid dividend, they also increased their dividend during the 2008 recession. This is a very good and a very healthy sign. Based on this criteria, I've made this list. Notice that all companies have a payout ratio of less than 75%. If you remember, that was the first thing you need to look at. The second thing you need to look at is the economic moat. All these companies I've picked have wide economic moat. That was the second thing on the list. The last thing is the payout history, particularly during years when the last recession hit. As you can see, all the companies continued to pay and increase their dividends during the 2008 recession, except the highlighted ones. These are the two exceptions I've made. Why is that? Well, Starbucks started paying dividends in 2011, relatively new compared to the rest of the names, but I think they're well placed in the industry and have a long way to go. And same with Apple. I will talk about the last column in a bit. Let me walk you through a couple of names and how I populated the column. Pick Texas Instruments for example. I will go to my brokerage page and look for number 1, the payout ratio, which in this case is 59%. Then number 2, I will look for the economic moat, which is wide. And number 3, I will look for the payout ratio. As you can see, Texas Instrument not only paid a dividend during the last recession, they increased their dividend as well. This is a very healthy sign. Let's pick another name. How about 3M? Number 1, the payout ratio is 57%. Check. Economic moat is wide. Check. 3M have increased their dividend for a whopping 60 years. Holy moly, that is impressive. They have survived not one but a few recessions. That is very impressive. Going back to the list, some of the companies have a very impressive record of paying dividends. These are stable companies with a healthy balance sheet. Now let's talk about the last column. Every year, Barron's comes up with a list of 100 most sustainable US companies. The ones highlighted in green were rated by Barron's in 2019. However, the ones in orange did not make the list. I'm sure there are a lot of companies out there that I did not mention, but remember, the goal over here was sustainable dividend, and although this analysis will help you filter out the good from bad, it is not a guarantee that the company or its dividend will be sustainable. There's no such thing as a guarantee. No company is too big to fail. If you like reading books, be sure to check out Andrew Ross Sorkin's Too Big to Fail. The book is about the financial crisis of 2008 and how our financial system nearly failed us. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt and a lot of bank mergers took place. The point being, no company is too big to fail. Even if you invest in these companies, you need to understand that things can go wrong. We are all familiar with this look. You could lose your investment. All investments carry a risk, but if you do your homework, you can minimize that risk. What companies are you invested in? Is there a sustainable company that I missed? Or is there a company that you think is on track to be one of the most sustainable companies in the US? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. Also, do not forget to subscribe and hit that like button.